Thank you, Doug. It is my pleasure to join you today to talk about the important work IRS employees are doing. The Wage and Investment Division maintains a customer-first focus all year round, but it really kicks into overdrive during the filing season. We care about our customers. We want to know what our customer needs are. And we are always looking for ways to make the experience better and to help them understand and meet their tax obligations. Innovation and continuous improvement are the cornerstone of everything we do. We could not be doing what we're doing to help taxpayers without IRA funding. And we couldn't do it without our amazing workforce. I'm so proud of what they've accomplished every day. On behalf of all of the W&I employees, I want to thank Secretary Yellen for her leadership and her support in the work we're doing. We are committed to achieving the goals she'll set forth for us today. And now, it is my honor to introduce Secretary Yellen. Secretary Yellen was sworn in as Secretary of the Treasury January 2021, after having spent almost 50 years in academia and public service. She is the first person in American history to have led the White House Council of Economic Advisors, the Federal Reserve, and the Treasury Department. After graduating from Brown University and earning her PhD at Yale, she was an assistant professor at Harvard, and she left in 1976 to work at the Federal Reserve Board. Then, in 1980, Secretary Yellen joined the faculty of the University of California at Berkeley, where she taught business and economics. She is a professor emeritus at the university. In 1994, she was appointed by President Bill Clinton to the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. 3 years later, he named her the chair of the White House Council of Economic Advisors. In 2004, Secretary Yellen began her third tenure at the Federal Reserve, this time as the president of the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco. In 2010, President Barack Obama appointed her vice chair of the Federal Reserve before nominating her to be the chair of the Federal Reserve. She served as the nation's top banker from 2014 until 2018. Secretary Yellen has been a strong advocate of the IRS and our workforce, and we are thrilled to have her with us today. Please join me in welcoming Secretary Yellen.
Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. And thank you to Ken Corbin, IRS Wage and Investment Commissioner and Chief Taxpayer Experience Officer, for your lovely introduction and for your and your team's great work. And thank you to Commissioner Danny Werfel for your leadership and for your deep commitment to driving change. Over the past year, I've been able to visit several Internal Revenue Service facilities to announce the significant milestones made possible by the Inflation Reduction Act and the hard work of IRS employees. And today, I'll again speak to the tremendous progress that we've made together. And I'll announce our goals for the 2024 tax filing season. The current proposals to cut funding for the IRS make this an especially crucial time to talk about the importance of this work. Playing politics with IRS funding is unacceptable. Cutting it would be damaging and irresponsible. The IRS collects 96% of the federal government's revenue, and this is the funding that enables our country to protect national security, provide Social Security and health care, and invest in our nation's infrastructure, among other key priorities. The IRS is also one of the few parts of government that touches nearly every American household. Taxpayers deserve a system that allows them to meet their obligations and contribute to our country's strength with pride and ease. Instead, the tax system has lagged far behind the digital age in which we now live. We see this in examples like the cafeteria in an Austin processing center that had become so full of paper it could no longer function as a cafeteria. This backlog was due not just to COVID, but to decades of underfunding. Despite the hard work of IRS employees, this meant the system has struggled with too slow processing times, unnecessary errors, and a significant tax gap, the amount of taxes owed but not paid. In 2019, the top 1% of Americans was estimated to owe over 1/5 of unpaid taxes. That leaves ordinary Americans to shoulder the burden. All of this has had real negative impacts on people's lives, causing frustration and unpredictability for too many Americans. And it's reducing the revenue our country can invest in our key priorities. The Biden administration recognized the need for a fundamental shift. And thanks to Congress's support, the Inflation Reduction Act will make a modernized IRS a reality, provided robust discretionary funding is also maintained and funding is not cut. The result will be a tax system fit for the 21st century, one that meets our country's needs and makes life better for Americans across the country. And this isn't just about transforming routine tax collection, which has allowed the cafeteria in Austin to be cleared of paper and go back to serving as a cafeteria. The IRA will leverage a modernized tax system to drive long-term investments as well. Now, let me turn to our goals for the next filing season, which will begin in less than 3 months. First, massive investments in customer service mean taxpayers will get the information and support they deserve. We made a tremendous leap forward last filing season, for example, by drastically reducing phone wait times. This filing season will build on this foundation and continue expanding services for taxpayers by phone, online, and in person. By phone, we will again commit to an 85% level of service during the filing season, meaning the vast majority of callers will be connected to live assisters and get support. We'll also commit to an average call wait time of 5 minutes or less, and nearly all callers will be able to take advantage of a callback option in the rare situations in which the wait time is much longer. Well, this is a world away from the 2022 filing season, when callers faced an average 10 to 15% level of service, an average phone wait time of nearly 30 minutes, and a much more limited callback option. We'll also expand robust online support. In 2022, 54 million unique taxpayers use the popular Where's My Refund tool. That's 16% of the US population. So we're continuing to invest in improvements. This filing season, Where's My Refund will incorporate conversational voice bot technology to help taxpayers get answers more quickly, and it will provide clearer and more detailed information so taxpayers can address barriers to processing their returns and receive their refunds quickly. We also know there's sometimes no substitute for face-to-face support, but tax assistance centers, which provide in-person support to local communities, have historically been under-resourced and understaffed. This filing season, taxpayer assistance centers across the country will collectively offer over 8,000 more hours of in-person assistance than they did last filing season. We'll also expand efforts to reach taxpayers in hard-to-reach areas who otherwise have difficulty accessing in-person assistance. To do this, we've added a new form of assistance: temporary pop-up centers, such as in Cialis, Puerto Rico, and Gallup, New Mexico. Taxpayers across the country will also continue to benefit from strong volunteer support. We anticipate that volunteer tax assistance will expand free assistance by approximately 50,000 returns this filing season. We're pairing our investments in customer service with investments to upgrade our technological infrastructure. Last August, I announced an ambitious goal. For the 2024 filing season, taxpayers would be able to choose to digitally upload all correspondence and responses to notices instead of mailing them. And I'm proud to announce that we met this goal last month, much ahead of schedule. The impact will be significant and far-reaching. Taxpayers will save time and effort. The IRS will reduce errors and storage costs, and will speed up processing time for the system as a whole. Today, I'm announcing another key milestone to make the IRS even less reliant on paper processing. By the start of the filing season, taxpayers will be able to electronically file 20 additional tax forms, including some of the most common forms for businesses. The IRS is also launching a limited scope direct file pilot. Starting this filing season, eligible taxpayers in 13 states will be able to electronically file their federal tax return directly with the IRS for free. The pilot is an opportunity to learn. We'll test the taxpayer experience, technology, customer support, state integration, and fraud prevention, and then apply these insights as we consider scaling to more users. The ambitious targets we'll set, and will keep setting, are achievable, but by no means easy. And while we'll all benefit, it is IRS staff who will do the hard work to get us there. So, alongside investing in customer service and new systems, we're continuing to invest in our greatest asset, namely the IRS workforce. We're hiring even more employees focused on taxpayer services. We're also strengthening enforcement with a focus on high earners. Our Fair Enforcement Initiative is about both fundamental fairness and raising much-needed revenue. And we're making progress. Thanks to strengthened enforcement, the IRS collected $160 million in just a few months from millionaires who had not paid their outstanding debt. It's announced new initiatives to use artificial intelligence to uncover tax evasion by large corporations and complex partnerships. And for this filing season, we'll drive even more progress by hiring employees with specialized expertise to focus on audits for high wealth filers, large corporations, and complex partnerships. These employees will join an extremely dedicated workforce, namely all of you. You have always gone above and beyond, but more recently, you've been asked to step up even more. During the pandemic, you worked particularly long hours in difficult conditions to keep our tax system running and help make it an engine of an equitable recovery. Now, you're part of this administration's work to build a fairer and more efficient tax system. And your work goes beyond that. A modern tax system will enable the implementation of key IRA provisions, such as credits to increase energy efficiency in homes across the country. These are lowering costs for customers and bringing our country one step closer to our net zero goals. Other credits are fueling the emergence of a battery belt across the Midwest and the South, creating new American manufacturing jobs and bolstering our country's supply chain security. So your work to strengthen the IRS is contributing to strengthening our country's economic growth and resilience. So with that, thank you again for having me here today, and thank you for your service. Our IRS modernization effort is improving the day-to-day lives of Americans across the country. And through enabling revenue collection and supporting key parts of the President's Investing in America agenda, it will help drive our country's economic strength for decades to come. So, congratulations on all you've already achieved, and I look forward to the achievement of more milestones ahead. And now it's my pleasure to turn the podium over to Commissioner Werfel. Dan.
I'm honored to be here today with Secretary Yellen to join her in thanking IRS employees for all the hard work being done to improve service to taxpayers and the nation. IRS employees have a strong commitment and dedication to taxpayers. Their efforts have been the driving force behind our success during the past year and the ongoing transformation work so critical to our future. I want to thank Secretary Yellen for laying out our goals for the upcoming 2024 tax filing season. These are ambitious goals, but I'm confident that we are up to the challenge. You only need to look at what we've accomplished so far with Inflation Reduction Act funding to see what's possible in the upcoming filing season and the years ahead. This transformation work has already started at the IRS, and taxpayers are already seeing what a difference a properly funded tax agency can do for them, their families, and the nation. Thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act funding, taxpayers saw a much better filing season last year than in 2022, and IRS employees are working hard to continue this momentum as the January tax season approaches. The new funding is driving change across the IRS, and we are seeing a wave of improvements that the agency hasn't seen in a generation. Each new filing season, the time of year when most Americans interact with the IRS, presents an opportunity to show how we are investing new funds to make long overdue improvements to customer service. This coming filing season, taxpayers will, like last year, see and feel a noticeable difference in IRS performance in being accessible, responsive, and effective in helping citizens navigate this nation's complex array of tax laws. We are improving to allow taxpayers to easily contact the IRS, whether in person, on the phone, or on the web. In the area of audits and exam, we are using new funding exclusively to address compliance issues among wealthy taxpayers who aren't following the rules or doing the basics of paying the taxes they owe. This enforcement effort, which continues to accelerate, includes not just millionaires, but large corporations and complex partnerships as well. When hard-working taxpayers file their taxes early in 2024, we want them to know the IRS is taking steps to make sure everyone is paying what the law says they owe, including those who can afford to hire an army of accountants and lawyers. And we are looking out for taxpayers in other ways. Everyone should know that the IRS is on the side of taxpayers. And there is a clear example of that when it comes to tax scams and schemes. IRS employees are working to protect honest taxpayers from scam artists and root out the nefarious actors that perpetrate them. Let me be as clear as possible. The IRS agenda in using Inflation Reduction Act funds is as follows. If you are middle or low income, better service. If you are wealthy, more scrutiny. To achieve this agenda, we must rebuild areas in the IRS that have suffered from more than a decade of underfunding that preceded the Inflation Reduction Act. A critical change we are making involves providing the IRS workforce with the right tools, including training, technology, and smarter processes, so we are ready now and in the future to meet our core mission of supporting taxpayers and the nation. And that includes tapping into new technology like AI to help both with our compliance efforts and new taxpayer service tools. Project teams across the IRS have been working diligently to deliver several new tools and service options for taxpayers that get us closer to meeting our objectives. I'd like to highlight a few examples of this great work. One example is phone service. At this point last year, we had an average level of service on the phones of about 14%, and we answered fewer than 9 million calls. After hiring more than 5,000 additional phone assisters, our level of service is averaging 75% on our main phone line, and we have answered more than 15 million calls. But our improvement here is not just about taking more calls. This past filing season, 84% of taxpayers who interacted with our phone assisters stated that this interaction increased their trust in the IRS. That's up from 70% 2 years ago. In the upcoming filing season, we want to continue to again exceed OMB's trust goal of 75%. Using Inflation Reduction Act funds, we are investing significantly in making interactions with us easier through technology. To cite one example, our main toll-free line will have a conversational voice bot this coming filing season to direct calls to the right agent. And perhaps the most exciting change of all, a callback option that triggers in 95% of all cases where the expected wait time exceeds 15 minutes for that topic. This means that for virtually all citizens calling into the IRS, the era of long waits of listening to elevator music while waiting for an IRS customer service rep to pick up is over. We plan to make it rare that a wait time will ever exceed 15 minutes on the primary 1040 line and other key customer service lines. But if it ever does, you can hang up, and we will call you back later. Importantly, we're also improving service at our taxpayer assistance centers. Since the infusion of Inflation Reduction Act funding, we have hired more than 700 new employees, allowing us to serve more than 1.6 million people at our taxpayer assistance centers this year. That's 18% above last year. We have opened or reopened more than 50 in-person locations to help taxpayers across the nation. And where we don't have services, we open temporary locations to serve taxpayers who don't live near an in-person center. None of these taxpayer-friendly options would have happened without Inflation Reduction Act resources. But there's more to transforming the IRS. Modernizing our operations is the key to meeting many of our goals. We are using IRA funding to upgrade our information technology infrastructure and to improve the taxpayer experience for those who choose to interact with us online. To cite a few recent examples, we have continued moving toward the goal of a paperless IRS by 2025, launched the first phase of an online account for business taxpayers, expanded our document upload tool, enabled the first digital mobile-friendly and adaptive forms. Our efforts to provide online options to interact with us will help reduce paper correspondence and, in turn, reduce taxpayers' need to call to check on the status of a letter they sent to us. The transformational changes we're making extend to enforcement as well. Before the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRS for too long was unable to do what we needed to enforce the tax law in complex areas involving high-dollar groups, especially wealthy individuals, large corporations, and complex partnerships. But with IRA funding, we are turning that around. As part of these efforts, we recently announced major new initiatives to step up audits of the largest corporations and partnerships. At the same time, we have been reevaluating our enforcement activities in other areas, and we will be working to add more fairness and compliance work involving on compliance work involving the Earned Income Tax Credit and other refundable credits. In conducting this work, I want to continue to emphasize an important point. Our new Inflation Reduction Act resources are not being used to raise audit rates for small businesses and households earning $400,000 per year or less. I've said it before, and I will say it again. There should be no hair splitting on the fact that we're increasing our compliance ahead for the IRS. We have many improvements for taxpayers in the months ahead and beyond. This is an exciting time to be at the IRS, and taxpayers and the nation will see the benefits, both during the upcoming tax season and beyond. Thank you for joining us today, and this concludes our event.